the immense potential within the young population. I sincerely believe that the startup movement in Tanzania will be a key pillar of a $1 trillion economy of Dira 2050. Let us build the future where one accountable, innovative, well-governed startup at a time. Nawashukuruni sana kwa kunisikiliza. Asante.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think she deserves a bigger round of applause, tafadhali. I think what I really like from what you have said, ni kwamba startups and innovation are indispensable enablers kwenye Dira 2050. How many of us are familiar with the Dira 2050, especially wale wa under 25? Amazing. So get time to take a look at it. And I think I was really happy kwamba you have shown us where, allow me to say this, where the money is. Kwa sababu fursa if you do justice to an opportunity, that means there is money in it. All the sectors that were mentioned, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, construction and real estates, mining sector, blue economy, sports and creative industry, the financial sector, service sector. That means eneo lako lazima una eneo huko. So what solution are you bringing that can bring us to the 1 trillion economy kulingana na Dira 2050? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hakika tunaona ustawi wa pamoja kutoka kwa Tume ya Taifa ya Mipango. Makofi tena tafadhali. All right. Now we're going to have our next session, which is going to be a fireside chat. Unakumbuka zamani, sema wengi hapa mkoepo. Au wengi tumesimuliwa, unaambiwa they set the fire alafu bibi mnapiga naye story. Sasa si mmesikia story kama hizo? Hamjawahi kusikia? Zamani. Kuna ambaye ameshawahi kukaa kwenye moto jioni kijijini akapigiwa story na bibi? Really? Okay, that's a really good, I wish I had that, but well. So this is a modernized fireside chat where we'll collectively explore how Tanzania can accelerate its journey towards the 1 trillion digital and innovation-driven economy by 2050, through strategic financing, policy reforms, and scalable enterprise development. So I would like to bring up on stage the moderator of this session. He wears many hats. He is an accomplished entrepreneur, celebrated for his deep expertise in realms of media, technology, and gaming. He has a profound understanding of these industries and he has been a driving force behind transformative innovations and strategic leadership that have left an incredible mark on each sector. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Mike Mushi as he comes up to moderate the session and to invite his panelists. Nyota moja, 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, 6 star, 7 star, 8 star. Asante sana. Yes.
Sisi wengine tunasikiaga Dira 2050. Leo tumeweza kuitafsiri inamaanisha nini kwa startups. Kwa hiyo naamini wote mmeweza kupata taswira kama startups tuna majukumu gani katika kuitekeleza Dira 2050. So good afternoon everyone. So today we had a planned multi-speaker panel, but the interest of the twist, we have something that's more valuable. The opportunity to go deep with one of Africa's most strategic fintech and digital financial thinker, a founder, investor, and ecosystem architect who has shaped digital finance system across multiple markets. Mr. Ivan Tarimo, founding partner at Bankable. Karibu sana, Ivan. And thank you for holding the fort with us. Jamani, makofi kidogo kwa Ivan. So, Kaka Ivan, before we dive into the heavy topics,
your introduction was very generous, too generous.
I know. Before we dive into the heavy topics, I know you have worked in technology, finance, an ecosystem around several markets. So what's originally sparked your passion into the financial system in Africa?
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody in the room. Nice to be here. My background is economics, so I'm an economist by training. The first job I happened to get, back then it was easier to get jobs straight out of university, was in banking, specifically treasury, so a lot of financial markets, capital markets, investment type of work, which also give you a bit of flexibility to think around maybe this can be improved or that can be improved, because our markets were then, and to some extent now, were still a bit underdeveloped, and there was a lot of room for development. So that allowed me at one day to say I would break out and start my own thing and deal with things related to market. So it's all about where I started from, and the fact that I was in a space where you could see challenges and you could see that these may be resolved in certain ways, and that opened up the thinking to the opportunity. So I think, like most of the startups here, somewhere you're driven by some challenge that you're looking to solve. Lucky for you, we are in a place where there's no shortage of challenges to solve across many areas. So obviously many opportunities. Thanks.
So you don't have to send email kwa HR kuomba kazi?
No, not anymore, but I receive many emails from young people looking for work.
Thank you. So Tanzania, 2050, has a vision of a $1 trillion economy, which relies strongly on digital infrastructure. So from a perspective, what should a future-ready digital financial system look like? Is it going to catalyze innovation? Is it going to attract finance or accelerate startups ecosystem to grow? So, and what are the architect choices that will determine that success or failure going forward?
Yeah, I think this is a very important one. I know $1 trillion is a very bold target. Mm-hmm. And when we say the financial system infrastructure, let's put aside the loans at the moment, because immediately everybody will think, will I be able to get a loan?
True.
But before we even get there, Tanzania, by its economy, is really service-driven. I know, yes, we do agree, it's around 25-30%, but 50% of the economy is services. What are these? Tourism, logistics services, trade, retail and wholesale trade. So there's a lot of activity that's happening in services. If you look at the outstanding 40 trillion or so lent by the banks right now, 40 trillion in lending, most of those are going to personal and trade. Maybe almost 50% is going to personal loans and trade-related loans. Most of the personal loans are going to do some sort of services or invest in small businesses, not just to pay for schools, etc., etc. So there is an opportunity to build a financial ecosystem that reduces the frictions and the barriers to trade. The better we get at catalyzing trade, facilitating trade. You know, when we keep hearing kuna muhogo Kisarawe unauzwa kilo bei hii lakini ukija ndani bei mara tatu, that's all about the friction of the trade in between. So there's a lot of room to improve there, and the financial ecosystem is critical. Whether there are things that should be paperless, there are things that shouldn't use cash, there are things that should be much shorter than they are. If you observe any of those three, there's room for disruption that creates value, and possibly there are people along that chain who are willing to pay for that value. So it's a challenge of building a financial ecosystem that reduces the cost to do trade. In the process, it needs to also create and maintain data that can then be used to de-risk. So number one, reduce cost. You can't say de-cost. De-cost is not a word. Reduce costs.
Yes.
Two, de-risk. And this is where the problem that comes in for all some of our startups here.
So which countries have built this well, and what can Tanzania realistically borrow or adapt?
I think different countries have had different progress. For example, right now, as we embark on 2050 vision, the first 5 years, which will be called FYDP 4, 5-year development vision 4, which will run from 26 to 30, is trying to make Dar es Salaam or Tanzania a financial hub. What does that mean? That is a mantle that right now is either Nairobi or Mauritius, South Africa, and for Northern Africa, perhaps Egypt, Morocco, etc. But we've not ever really tried to distinguish ourselves as a financial hub, meaning the services need to be there. The systems need to be there. The analysts, the young people who are analyzing, not just auditors or accountants or lawyers, but financial analysts need to be there in abundance. The legal framework needs to work. Securitization, collateralization. So with that, if we aim for that, it will improve so many things that will help us get there. So Mauritius has done that extremely well, especially for attracting big capital and corporates there. Nairobi's done that well from a startup point of view. All the PEs, VCs are there. So what we're saying is it's more a combination of the two in trying to make Dar es Salaam a financial hub.
And what do you see our biggest gaps today? Is it infrastructure? Is it interoperability? Is it data? Is it trust?
I think we have both. If you look at some of the reports that we used to read from a treasury point of view, one in particular was the APSA Market Index, which was quite informative. An area where we consistently lacked, or we consistently ranked towards the bottom of the pile, was the legal and regulatory framework of the markets, which is the soft infrastructure upon which transactions now move. So think of transactions or economic activities driven by transactions. And think of the soft infrastructure, the systems, the rules, the regulations, as whether that road is paved or it's got full of potholes. So if it's full of potholes, you cannot drive 100 kilometers an hour like your fellow colleague in Kenya, Mauritius, South Africa, or India is driving. So getting that right is key.
Yeah, because that was my follow-up question, meaning if you're building a system from scratch, what would have been the first thing you'll fix? So would the regulatory framework the first thing that you'll fix?
I think it's very important. Or if it's not fixed, or it's being fixed slower than the startups and the opportunities are coming, at least have a transitory, you have these incubations, you have these sandboxes, and we have some regulators in the market who are quite innovative. They let you go ahead and fail fast. And then you come back and give them the learnings. They are there. Capital markets is one of them. Okay. They're quite experimental in terms of how they allow things to happen in the capital markets. Yeah. And it's an area that, therefore, Tanzanian capital markets are by far one of the more innovative in the region, even more than Nairobi and some of the others who are advanced as banking and finance ecosystems.
Interesting. So globally, high-performing ecosystem relies on very strong financial partnership. You've mentioned this very earlier. Like banks, telcos, investors, government, and startup working together. So what partnership are most crucial right now to ensure that Tanzania startups can move from pilot stage to scalable regional businesses? And how do this partnership translate into GDP, productivity, and export growth?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think most startups get this challenge. You immediately, you have an idea and you immediately walk up to the corporate, the bank. Sometimes if they like your idea too much, they try to think, how can we do this ourselves? And so you're at risk. And you need to have that safe place where you can innovate and try and scale your idea. So obviously several options exist. But the best one I would wish that, now we have a ministry of youth And hopefully through policy coordination, through the likely new policy, youth policy, we'll have a formalization of how institutions can also be held to account or be allowed or be encouraged to work with innovators within their sectors. Hey, you're TANESCO, you're in power. At the end of the year, tell us what you're doing with young people trying to innovate solutions in power. I've seen somebody come to me and say, mnajua nyumba za kupanga, so kuna nyumba za kupanga, luku mita iko moja, kuna watu labda 10 au 20. How do you get that payment to work and split? So the guy had made some sort of an innovation. That's really a startup that can be incubated within the TANESCO ecosystem. So imagine if the other companies do that, and not just public companies, private companies do that. So then you are able to scale some support to all the startups by anchoring them to well-established institutions who now have a motivation and policy to do so.
So it's to leverage big businesses that already exist and how startup can innovate within the big businesses.
Yeah, I mean, all these institutions, for example, pay SDL.
Yes.
If you told them, stay back with a little bit of that SDL, but make sure in your ecosystem, in your sector, you're supporting some startups who are doing something within that space.
Which we go back to your point about the regulatory framework,
Yeah.
because that's what that supports that. So what do investors want to see before they make big bets in Tanzania?
Well, investors are all very much afraid of risk. So there's tendency to have very high overconfidence bias when, the baby is yours. So you go to pitch, you understand it very well, it works 100%, you've thought it all out. But investors may see it from a different angle because of their perspective, where they've been burnt before, they've never invested. So the risk or perception of the risk is very critical to address. Address it from their point of view, not just from yours, so that you're able to get them on board.
And to turn the question around, what do you think are the biggest misconception founders have about investment readiness?
Overconfidence bias, definitely. Meaning, obviously, you understand what you're trying to solve, you understand how it works, and therefore it's a slam dunk. This will work 200%. Now, I think I'm correct. When M-Pesa started,
Yes.
it actually started as a loan product, I think. Immediately the use case was more and more towards payments, and then it completely changed. So the M-Pesa founder initially said, no, forget about payments. It's all about lending. We will not be here. But now they're back to the lending. So I think it's good to understand the risk and try and test it out, get a devil's advocate to poke holes within your strategy, do what's called a pre-mortem. These are the things that can go wrong, and this is how I'll solve them, rather than just going 100%, everything is hunky-dory.
And from the capital perspective, where do you see the biggest leaks? Places where capital should be flowing, but capital is not flowing.
I think we have a lot of trade and retail services, like I said. So a lot of capital, money, working capital is being used, importing, buying, and selling. I think there could be more capital going into investments that try and make the process easier, reduce the cost. Obviously, at an economic level, there's a lot of capital that's going to go into more intense mining, infrastructure, agri. These must be so for the economy. But I would really like the startups here to focus a lot on money that's going into the services, especially trade, retail and wholesale, tourism, promoting the southern circuit. How do we get more tourists from China? We are very much Western based in terms of the tourists that come. China is 1.4 billion people. They're already here. They understand the place. So there's a lot of that can be done in the service space.
Thank you. Digital economies run on people. not just technology. And what talent gaps do you see in Tanzania today, and how can we develop the skills needed for a fully competitive digital economy?
That is a good one. I think when it comes to digital economy, we sort of all want to swim, but no one wants to get that shirt out and dive into the water. We want to have a digital economy, we want to have digital footprints, but so much of activities, behaviors, we're so used to cash, we love cash, and behave in a way that's not really going to digitize. Now for the businesses, especially startups, even the other services business that already exist, the fact that if they're able to create some digital footprint of what they do over time, that will be very valuable. There was one startup who was selling gas, I think, to a guy who was selling chips, right? And they have a lot of business. Wako pale kila siku. They're always doing business, so they're always using gas.
Yep.
Yeah? The data on how much gas they use, and they always pay. If a bank comes and looks, oh, but you use this much gas, and you always pay, and you're always here. If I gave you money based on how much you're spending just on this, you have an ability to borrow X.
Yes.
But the data is important.
True.
So the ways and means to capture this data is very important, especially for startups. So digital footprint is key. So every real person needs to have a digital persona type footprint of their business or of themselves to make them more bankable.
So this is more wanting your opinion around it. If you're advising the country directly right now, and you're to pick 3 strategic priorities Tanzania must execute before 2030 to stay on track to achieve the $1 trillion economy, what are the top 3 non-negotiables?
Okay, that's a good one. So one definitely will be on people and skills. I think we can improve our economy a lot if we make productivity gains. That means for the labor and capital that goes into any activity to get more output out of it. So it's the kind of technology that goes in, but also it's the skills of the people doing the work. So investing in that is extremely important because you increase your productivity at the same capital outlay, you're creating more value, right? So that's important. 2, I think the financial services as the means by which resources are moved and passed around between one area and another needs to continue to be improved. The financial sector is growing very, very rapidly at the moment. It's contributing just under 5% of the economy, growing at almost 15% per annum. So that's the area where there's room to really put a lot of capital in people's hands through different ways, not just banks, but also through other alternative mechanisms. And in particular, how are we finally going to pull together all of these empowerment type money and really create a fund that works and understands and unlocks things? And the last one would be energy. I think energy is extremely important. Most of the developed countries, if you overlay that with either the energy per capita or the power that they produce, it's not even debatable. You must have the right amount of energy being produced. And the way we're going with AI and data centers are so thirsty for power, we need to have a lot of energy being produced from the economy.
Which one of the out of the 3, people in skills, financial sector, and energy, which one is the hardest but the most important one to get it right?
I think the first one would be the hardest. And really when you break that, you get the right people in the right places, you have the skills, it helps you through the other ones as well. Finance unlocks project financing for big projects, smaller projects, SMEs, and then energy feeds off the back of the developments of those 2.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivan, for the depth we have had today. And what we have learned is very clear, that to achieve the $1 trillion economy that we aspire to, it's a journey that is possible. So thank you for your time. And on behalf of everyone, thank you, and we we'll go on to the next session.
Thank you very much.
I would like to welcome my next guest. So, today we're looking at a question that sits at the heart of our national agenda. And to go into our next session, we will start with the national strategic lens, the reforms, the frameworks, and the system that unlocks the innovation and commercialization around the country. And to guide us through that, we are honored to have Mr. Jason Ndanguzi, Director of Commercialization at the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology. Jason sits at the intersection of government, innovation, and technology, and plays a key role in shaping how Tanzania startups move from idea, prototype, national, and even regional markets. Mr. Jason?
Kwake wakati anakuja on stage. 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, 6 stars. Asante sana.
And in round 2, we will shift from strategy to execution and from policy to practice. We'll look at the founder's viewpoint, and with that, we will understand what is the real readiness of our startup ecosystem today and what needs to evolve for us to compete regionally, and what must be built differently to unlock scale. For that, the conversation, we are joined by Mr. Michael Tarimo, Chief Technology Officer at Credible Group, a technologist and a founder who has scaled digital financial products across African markets and understand the realities of building for scale. Mr. Michael Tarimo. Together, these two conversations will help us bridge the gap between vision and reality. Okay. So we'll start with Mr. Jason. So before we get into the technical details, I would like to start with something personal. So you work at the intersection of innovation, technology, and commercialization. So what drives your passion for enabling the Tanzanian technology and startup ecosystem? And what excites you about the direction that we are heading?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, moderator. I'd like to reintroduce myself. My name is Jason Dangozi from the ICT Commission. It's an ICT promotion agency under the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology. Our main mandate is promoting ICT in Tanzania in terms of skills development, ICT skills development, but also promoting investment in ICT sector in Tanzania. And from the keynote speaker, which was spoken by Dr. Blandina, and if you get to scan the Vision 2050, I saw the word digital written more than 40 times. And sometimes we tend to interlink the word technology and digital. So, but it's interesting to understand that we are looking forward and we are looking forward to depend on digital technology to drive innovation in Tanzania and in the world. And my inspiration is how the trends of the world is going and what we are trying to do. At least we are coming to a conclusion and we accept that digital technology is the driver of probably 90% of all innovations happening in the world today. And that's also, we are realizing that in Tanzania. And because of that, we as an IST Commission, I don't want to say it's becoming a burden to us, but we are happy to see that, and we are happy to accept that challenge. And we are open to even get more insights from you, because we have a big role to lead on how digital technology can be leveraged to drive innovation in Tanzania and even realize that $1 trillion economy. And like we've asked, there are many areas: data commercialization, open data access. There are different scenarios of how digital technology can be leveraged. You know, when you listen to international news, when you look at President Donald Trump, the previous speaker said we are going to be 118 million people. So when you look at President Donald Trump, he says we have great minds, we have great brains, we're going to use them, we're going to be the best. No one will be better than us. No one will be over us. So we have to also bring that mindset in our country. And like the speaker said, we need to get out of the language of grants, come into more of commercialization. How can we make our solution bankable? How can you use digital technology to even champion our innovation? Even the winner from Agrotech, I was impressed, like during his presentation, he presented a map of East and Central Africa. So he has a vision of selling his product outside the boundaries of Tanzania. And that's one of the things which we are also championing, because we have a lot of innovators and the market is not Tanzania, it's not only the domestic, our consumers, but we also need to look at, if we looked at our neighbors during independence struggle, we should look at our neighbors during innovation struggle.
Thank you.
As well. Thank
you. So Tanzania as an aspiration, I'm still on you, Mr. Jason, to become a $1 trillion economy by 2050. And startups will play a major role in that journey. So from your vantage point at the Commission, what strategies are you deploying to ensure that startups operate in a predictable, enabling business environment? And what can founders expect to experience differently from these reforms taking shape to Vision 2050?
Yes, thank you. We behind the scene, we've been drivers of many transformation we are experiencing now. We champion the issues of regulatory sandboxes. We've been working closer with the Bank of Tanzania, even TCRA, even today we are talking about CMSA, even the regulatory insurance, TIRA. We had a conversation and trying to inspire them on how regulatory bodies should encourage innovation and their role and the responsibility. They have a responsibility. It's not just they are doing by willingly, but it's their responsibility to ensure innovation happens. It's for good of the country to achieve this vision, but it's also for the regulatory bodies also to learn from innovation on how best they can just become promoters and less than being gatekeepers of innovations. So that's one of the big roles we have played. But also we are trying to ensure innovation it's not, I won't say it's a difficult, but it's a heavy task to ensure innovation doesn't only happen in Dar es Salaam, trying to even to explore if there are other innovation in rural areas. But along that comes another issues of capacity building and skills development. How people are aware, how people have proper skills and up-to-date skills which can call for demand of their innovations. So we are working close even with universities to see how their curriculums address up-to-date technology-driven solutions and enable them to create those solutions and inspire innovation across the country.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Mr. Michael.
Yes, Mike.
Mr. Jason will talk about policy. You will talk about practice because you're actually doing it. So before we get technical, I'm just curious. You have built technology in multiple African countries. And so what do you love the most about building tech from Tanzania, and what keeps you motivated in this ecosystem?
Thank you very much, Mike. I must start by thank you for actually inviting me to this session and to be part of this panel. My CEO was actually supposed to be here. He hasn't been able to make it, so I'm filling in for him. So I'm grateful to actually be here. Yeah, at Credible, we are actually deploying our products across Africa. We exist in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Mozambique. We are very much motivated when we see products actually change lives. The space that we're in is in digital banking space. We've been in this space for quite some time. We were there when mobile money started. So there's still very much debate where it actually started. When you see how people are making use of mobile money, and when you see the impact of the technology that you've built, changing lives, impact the economy, it actually gives us that motivation. Another part of it is being able to demonstrate to the younger generation that this is actually possible. And you see that they're actually coming up and they're building different products which can impact the community in exactly the same way.
Thank you. From the current trajectory, you as a founder and a CTO, how would you assess the performance of the maturity and competitiveness of Tanzanian startup ecosystems today?
So if I go back 20 years ago when we started, we were not even thinking about investors. We were looking into our pockets. We were trying to actually break through by ourselves. Fast forward 2015, when we started another business, it was also not as big as it is today. It's encouraging what we're actually seeing today. It's very much advanced. We are exposed to what is actually happening in other markets. The way we are approaching funding is a bit different from what we actually did 10 or 20 years ago.
And what are the areas that have shown improvement?
I think it's general knowledge or exposure in finance and how you access finance. Dr. Bina, she mentioned about grant. Right now, there's different modes of actually funding and how you can use that funding into enabling. It is very important when you're trying to explore areas which are riskier within the business that you're in. So we can see that we are much more exposed. People have more knowledge of actually how to source fund and being able to build and grow their businesses.
So from your experience scaling Credible, what practical mechanism must be put in place to enable startups to truly drive the kind of economical impact? And if you're to prioritize them, which actions come first?
So it's innovation around multiple areas. So if we look at the way we're approaching innovation from credible point of view, we're looking at it from the business model innovation. What is it that you can, how can you approach your business in a different and innovative way and make it more practical? So for instance, for us, what we do is we form partnership with channel partners. We form partnership with banks. And immediately you can see that there is actually innovation around how we actually approach the business. The other part is innovation around the processes that it can actually perform much better.
Thank you, Michael. I'll go back to Mr. Jason. Commercialization is the heart of the building high growth companies. Companies that create jobs, drive exports, and boost productivity. So how is the Commission and the Ministry in totality strengthening commercialization pathways to ensure that Tanzanian startups don't just innovate, but actually reach markets and compete globally? And what support structures are emerging to help founders scale beyond early pilots? So this directly to your commercialization department.
Yeah, the keywords commercialization, compete globally. Those are very big things. I'll call it's a multi-sector issue and a multinational issue. You see, when you are inspired by big companies, we know today it's a multinational supply chain. Yeah? Things are designed, established in the West, they're manufactured in the East. Standards and regulatory issues are established in the center, and Africa we consume. I hope when I talk the language you understand. We design, we establish most in the West, the East manufactures, the Euro Center, we put standards, regulatory issues, and it goes like that to our region. So to overturn that, it needs, within the country, it's a cross-sector issue. Within the continent, it's a cross-border issue. And even outside Africa, it's a intercontinental issue. So there are some stages as a country need to come as one. In our sector, we are trying. We just try to set up a startup policy, like once the president said, and it's something within the ministry which it's already championing that. There's already a baseline study has been done in that area on what issues should the policy address. And one of the key focus areas which the baseline studies has identified is an issue about infrastructure. How easy is for startups to access supporting infrastructure for their business. Access to finance has become as one of the key issue. Human capital skills, even the startup culture. It's also about even culture. How do consumers see local startups? If someone until the age of 40 or majority have been used to import things and whatever. So the behavior change towards our local startup, how is it? So there's an issue of also of startup culture and many others. So there are issues which the baseline study has identified, and probably they're going to be considered in the startup policy when the time comes. I think the ministry come and explain more about the startup policy. But I understand, and some of you have been consulted about the baseline study. And on behalf of the ministry, we appreciate on your contribution and engagement, which we are ready to share your views on that study. But like we said, we're going to start with the startup policy, but more engagement needs to be done on how to enable domestic growth of our innovations, but cross-border within our region and even cross-continental, because the world is multiple. It's a matter of multiple supply chain. You have an aeroplane, an engine is designed in one country, it's been
Assembled.
in another country. The IT stuff and software stuff is being done in another country.
True.
And those are the big companies. That's how they do, and that's how we can grow. Yes.
And which sectors right now, from your experience, shows the highest commercialization potential right now?
For the past few years, the fintech seemed to rise, I would say exponential, but now it's taking a gradual growth, meaning that maybe it's decreasing a little bit. Agriculture is coming, is growing at a good pace. So it's a good question, and it's good. Like, we are looking at all sectors, but sometimes we need also to be selective. Like, which area do we need to empower most, which employs most of our people, and which has a bigger impact to our economy, so that we reach our vision of having $1 trillion economy. So it was a good question. We had experienced a growth in fintech. We have good experience in using the services. Let's keep on innovating, and we need to boost other sectors. And I've experienced maybe agriculture at least is trying to come up, is doing good nowadays. And we're also trying to see in other sectors how we can enable other sectors.
Thank you.
It's worth to mention logistics. Hello? Yeah. Like, it's part of the industries which I think the environment, the space that I think is important to look into, and manufacturing as well.
Good. I think I'll switch back to you, Michael. What kind of talent, culture, and founder mindset do we need to build companies that compete regionally and globally? From your experience with Credible.
Yeah. I think that's a hard one. The culture. I think being in startup space for quite some time, I think the culture of being able to try, new things, the culture of being able to understand maybe compliance, the culture of being able to, being able to
be able to try and fail.
Yeah, being able to try things and see things through. Is the culture that we actually need to build to be able to build a resilient startup.
Thank you. Any last word from you, Mr. Jason?
Thank you. When we discuss all those things, the government may do whatever is within its reach and its limits, but we don't just end there. We have soldiers on the grounds. In some part also, when I'm out of office, I'm also a soldier on the ground. I do engage in some innovation or whatever. So we don't just say, no, the government's limitation is here, so the government can only stretch at this point. Let us try to engage the government and extend its limits and make it stretch more, so that you can empower the innovation ecosystem. There are some frameworks. Now I understand the government is developing the AI strategy, national AI strategy. It's on the ministry's website, I understand. So if you're on the ground innovating in the area of AI, I've seen Agrotech, you might have a good insight to advise on, okay, I've done this innovation in AI and this practicals are working on ground like this. You, the government, if you are doing this strategy, some things like A, B, C, D should be included. So be engageful, don't hesitate, because the government depends more on you so that you can set up whatever frameworks or guidelines or strategy to enable the growth of the innovation ecosystem. So you are the soldiers, you are the front runners of the innovation ecosystem, not the government. That's my view on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jason. And back to you, Michael. What are you hopeful about the startup ecosystem, and what's your final word to close up this panel?
Yeah, I'm very, very much hopeful. We've seen a lot of transformations. Um, One thing I'll comment though, especially on the Vision 2050, and that we all need to agree is the only way to realize that, given the ambition that we have, is if we can actually create a very good environment for startups. You know, to do 7 times your per capita today, to improve on the energy area, to achieve the $1 trillion economy by 2050, which is not very far, 25 years to come. A lot actually has to be done on startup. If we go back 20 years ago, which is about the same time to get to 2050, we'll see that the innovation around mobile money is actually taking us to a bigger space today. You know, like 2020, we achieved to become the middle income country. So to actually get to what we really want to do, 2050, looking at doubling the population and all that, I think we really need to create an environment for startup. You know, we need to look at and encourage not the top layer, but even the bottom layers of governance to change the way they look at, you know, what is their KPIs. So instead of looking at revenue, right, you know, let's look at how do we create an environment where it can create jobs and can grow businesses. I think if we focus on those, then we'll probably get to where we want to really go.
Thank you. These two conversations have helped us to bridge the gap between the vision and reality, and between what we aspire to achieve by 2050 and what we must build today to get there. Mr. Jason and Mr. Michael, thank you very much.
No. Thank you very much. Another round of applause, tafadhali. I'm curious. Mmepata vitu kweli? I would like to get an input from you guys, what mmepata leo kwenye from the discussion. Is that okay? Wengine mmechoka. All right, let's do a quick activity as we prepare for the next session. Niwaamshe kidogo mmesinzia. Naomba kama mtaniruhusu. If you will indulge me, please, let's be on our feet. Thank you very much. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Asante sana. Asante sana, asante sana. Asante sana. Wonderful. So, since we're talking about unleashing innovation, inclusion, and economic transformation, I want to introduce you to one lady called Mama Pima. How many of us have ever heard of Mama Pima? 1. All right. Wonderful. 2. Wonderful, wonderful. So Mama Pima is a chef. She's a very innovative chef. At the end of the day, she wants to produce the best food on earth. So she tries different ways. So we are going to sing a song, and I'm going to show you. We're going to do together what Mama Pima does. So it goes like Mama Pima, Mama Pima. You'll repeat Mama Pima, Mama Pima. Anapika, 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 anapika. Na mkono wa kulia, na mkono wa kulia. Is that okay? Let's give it a try. Mama Pima, Mama Pima. Anapika, anapika. Na mkono wa kulia. Alright, meshikanisha. Guys, ambao mnatoka, just indulge me for 2 minutes, then you guys will go. We'll have a 5-minute break and then we'll be back. Thank you very much. Alright, so now let's put some salt into it. So we're going to sing it. Alright? Mama Pima, Mama Pima. Anapika, anapika. Na mkono wa kulia. Mama Pima, Mama Pima. Anapika, anapika. Na mkono wa kushoto. Mama Pima, Mama Pima. Anapika na mguu wa kulia. Mama pima. Anapika na mguu wa kushoto. Mama pima. Anapika kwa kichwa. Mama pima. Anapika kwa kiuno. Wonderful, you have done well. You can get back to your seats. So this is innovation that we are talking about. Crazy things make things happen. Sindio? We are going to be daring and wonderful. So now I'd like to invite our next keynote, Mr. Jumanne Mtambalike. He's actually a favorite of mine. I'll tell you something. There's a particular event I went to sometime 2 or 3 months ago, and his organization was celebrating 10 years of impact. And he shared with us amazing stories and amazing information on using AI and technology. And I think when I heard he was coming up, I knew kwamba we are in for a ride. So makofi kwake tafadhali as he takes us on another interesting journey.
Test on two. Good afternoon. Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Can I have my slides please? Kichwa changu kimechoka, sikumbuki chochote kwenye zile slide. Au turudie tena mchezo wa mama pima. Baba pima sasa eh? Okay, yeah. Click anafanya kazi eh? Okay, great. Habari za asubuhi. Kama wewe ni founder una startup, nyosha mkono juu. Like if you have a startup. I say startup kama unatafuta hela usikatae hela yoyote ile. Isiyohusisha tu damu na kuua watu, lakini hela nyingine yote chukua. Because it's very difficult to build a business without money. So my name is Jumanne Mtambalike. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sahara Ventures. I've been doing a lot of work with startups in Tanzania. My career started at Costech. I can see my colleagues from Costech. I stayed there for 5 years working with Buni Innovation Hub. And then eventually went to co-found Sahara Ventures. We turned 10 this year. And it's not a joke. It has been a monkey business, as the Finnish people say. A lot of fun, chaos, and learning along the way. But my topic today is a bit different. I've been told to talk about building a talent pipeline for Tanzania's startup ecosystem. So I'll focus on building talent only. I'm not going to talk about AI and everything else that I usually talk about. So nani anaweza kusema wakina nani hao? Chiefs, eh? Sawa. Not so far. So those are African kings. You can guess the countries. There's South Africa somewhere there. There's Nigeria. There's Egypt. And the last one, Kenya. So those are what they call the kings. Those are the kings of African innovation ecosystem. They are kings by theory, but also by facts and data. By facts and data because they attract most of the VC financing that is happening in the African continent. They have the largest number of innovation hubs in the African continent. 80% of transactions that are happening and going to startups, they're happening in their countries. And their ranking on the Global Innovation Index is fairly high compared to other African countries. So what's the underlying issue? They also have the biggest number of enterprise-level software developers in Africa than any other country, meaning that they have one of the highest skilled labor force in 4 of their major cities. So it's Nairobi, Lagos, Cairo, and Cape Town. On average, each of these cities have more than 60,000 enterprise-level software developers, compared to, where is Tanzania? To 15,000 that we have in Dar es Salaam. And I can tell you for a fact, we don't have 15,000 enterprise-level software developer. If you don't trust me, try to build an application and look for enterprise-level software developers in Dar es Salaam. So discussion about building a pipeline of talent to build the next startup economy in Tanzania is critical. And it's critical, it goes beyond the technical skills. Because building a business, you don't only have to be a software engineer with technical skills that are required to develop an application, but it's a multitude of skills that you're required to develop. Unfortunately, the structure of our education system right now doesn't allow you to be able to develop those skills in time so that you can be able to use them when you're building your business. So some of those skills include, I was told this clicker is working. Okay. Ideation, problem solving, communication, teamwork, creativity, critical thinking, design skills, prototyping, product development, customer acquisition strategy, business modeling, pitching, financial skills, fundraising, go-to-market strategy, finding PMF, growth hacking, technical skills. On average, any recent graduate in Tanzania doesn't even possess 20% of these skills. And I say that because I'm serving in 4 advisory boards of 4 universities, and I'm a board member of Tanzania Institute of Education, and we played a very critical role to develop the new competence-based curriculum. So if we are talking about building the startup economy in Tanzania, the first critical thing we need to address is the issue of skills gap. And we have to invest on what we call the 4 C's. We have to invest in critical thinking, we have to invest in creativity, we have to invest in effective communication, but also we have to invest on how we help our young people to learn how to collaborate, how to find a co-founder, and how to build something with others, how to see others as partners and not your competitors, and how to be okay to receive feedback and not to confuse between feedback, criticism, and insult. Because that's among the critical issues that are facing us. To some extent, a lot of young people today have very good GPA because they get a chance to go to university, but what they lack is soft skills. Those soft skills are critical for them to be able to build these businesses. With our mainstream education system kind of struggling to produce them, so the critical aspect and critical question that comes is, where do they acquire or attain these skills? When you look at this pathway, the first phase is ideation and conceptualization stage. That is where most of these guys are. Brother na idea yangu nisaidie, brother na idea yangu, naweza nikaja kukuona na idea yangu. So most of them, they're idea guys. They are still at the idea level. And it is normal to have a large group of them located there, but the critical issue is the path toward building a business, because they cannot stick at the idea level. And for them to move from the idea level to build a product, they need to develop technical skills. They need to understand about design thinking, they need to understand human-centered design, user-centered design, problem-centered design, so that they can be able to actually create solutions for problems that exist and product that can actually be used and needed. The problem is not about building. The problem, the issue is about building something that can actually be consumed. So tuko pamoja? Unaweza kutengeneza application ya kukumbusha watu kunawa mikono wakitoka washroom. From a coding perspective, you can actually create it, but do people want it? So how do they build products that are desirable, feasible, and viable as a critical aspect of them to be able to build those foundational skills? So this is a responsibility of an academic institution. So when we tell university you need to have co-working space, innovation hub, and innovation labs, it's because the mainstream academic system doesn't instill those skills to students. But if you have that space within your academic setup where they can toy around with ideas, they can collaborate and work in team, and they can solve problems with critical thinking, you're building a foundation of something who can actually become an entrepreneur. Because those are the skills that an entrepreneur need. So ile equation ya no jobs equals to entrepreneurship, it doesn't balance. Kwa sababu kama una kazi, kwa sababu ya kushindwa interview wakati wa kazi, there is no way you can be able to build a business. And that's a fact. If you want to build a business, you need to have sales skills, marketing skills, critical thinking, good communication skills, collaboration and coordination skills. Sasa ulishindwa kusimama kwenye interview, hizo skills utazitoa wapi? Kwa ile equation haifanyi kazi. So basically, the next stage is where people like innovation hubs, accelerators, incubators, they come in. Their primary focus is actually to help you to accelerate your growth, to move between the first stage to the other. But the problem is most of these incubators and accelerators are facing massive challenge to incubate and to accelerate. If Innovate Ventures here or Smart Lab, they can agree with me. Because they lack these critical foundation skills, what happened, instead of accelerating and growing their business with them, you ended up teaching them these skills. How to pitch, how to present your product, how to speak with confidence, how to dress well. You're getting me. But that is not a responsibility of an accelerator. Because the responsibility of accelerator is to help you to grow your business. But the idea is to create a pipeline of talent. And if you want to create a good pipeline of talent now, it's a responsibility of the university to work with ESOs, Entrepreneurship Support Organization, so that they can create the right pipeline that actually works. And eventually, if they grow, they can go to the likes of, Deloitte, KPMG, McKinsey, whatever we have in Tanzania, to allow them to scale and to move to the next stage of their growth. We can't achieve that if universities still think and behave traditionally. Traditionally, universities were designed to focus on an academic and research. And that is what has been happening for the past 1,500 years. They say the three institutions that are very complex to change is the government, the church, and the university. So, so believe me when I say it took 1,500 years to change. Ideally, the university we have right now, they're called second-generation universities, where education and research is the primary focus, and the center of knowledge is a person called lecturer. Is a person called what? Lecturer. Lecturer has come in after a person called master. Masters, these are the guys like Archimedes, son of Amos, Jean-Baptiste de Ramac, the guys who actually own the formulas and the regional secrets. So lecturer's responsibility was to learn from these guys so that they can move with the knowledge and give it to the student. But since the masters were dying, another role of the lecturer became to research on the work of the masters. And that's how research started. But the good news is we are living in an era where no one is smarter than Professor ChatGPT. So meaning that the center of knowledge has shifted. The center of knowledge has done what? Has shifted. Everyone has knowledge, everyone has information. The key issue is how do you use the knowledge and information you attain, which means the role of university has moved from just being education and research to incorporate aspect of innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. And lecture now has evolved to become a person they call a coach. So if you go to UCU, if you go to Aalto University, if you go to Stanford, all these popular universities on entrepreneurship is because they moved beyond the second generation university. Now within the campus, they have the design labs, they have the innovation studio, they have the fabrication laboratories. Why? Because they feel they need to merge between theory and practice. And by merging between theory and practice, that's the only way you can be able to foster innovation and research commercialization. And that's where offices like TTOs, technology transfer offices, start to make sense within an academic setup. Otherwise, we will always be celebrating and showcasing innovation that are emerging from the university, but eventually they will die because the cycle is not full. It is innovation exhibition, innovation exhibition, innovation exhibition desk, but it is innovation exhibition, scaling support, commercialization. Sijui tuko pamoja hapo eh? Yeah. So now, for us to use our student as a way to create a pipeline for enterprise level talent that eventually will create these institutions we call startup, we need to change our perception. Lecturers need to be able to coach students to come up with ideas. They need to instill ability for them to be critical thinkers, to see the problems that are happening in our society. And they need to encourage them to be problem solvers instead of people just consume solutions from others. If we're capable to do that, most of the innovation that are emerging from university and the talent that is emerging from the university will be desirable, meaning that we need it. It will be feasible to be addressing the need of our own environment, and it will be viable. They will build sustainable business model. Because that is what you're looking for from an entrepreneur. Someone who understands their context, someone who understands the need of their market, and someone who's ready to build a business that can be commercially viable and scalable. Without that, we will create a generation of idiots. Because in an innovation ecosystem, you have what we call the 3 I's. You have innovators, you have imitators, and you have idiots. There's nothing wrong being an imitator, because you can imitate, then you can do reverse engineering, and then you can create a good solution, and then you can reap those who started before you. China and South Korea are really good at that. They started at crafting very stupid devices. Eventually the devices become smart, and then eventually the devices become smarter than the devices they imitated from. And it's possible to do that. So our responsibility now, if we want to create this army of the next generation of Tanzanian problem solvers who will eventually create not only startups but SMEs that make sense, we need to create a society whereby our young people understand our problems. They can relate to our problems. They can be able to research on them. They can be able to ask the right question. They can be able to study what our people need, and they can be able to craft what is actually needed through an iterative cycle of what we call idea generation. And that is what we call the lean approach. You build, you learn, you measure over time. But you can't be able to do that if you don't possess the right skills to be able to do that. And that's why we want our institution to instill creativity in them, so that they can be able to brainstorm, to associate, to reframe, and to share ideas. We don't want to create a society where people are afraid to be criticized, where opinions are not being listened, where in an area where perspectives are being threatened. You don't nurture innovation in an environment like that. So if we are serious about creating a generation of people who are going to come with entities, with startups and everything, then we completely have to change our mindset. Not just on the mainstream education, we need to completely look and rethink our culture and value system, starting from home. Baada ya kumpigiza na makelele na mtoto wako, jenga naye hoja basi. Umeona eh? Jenga naye hoja. Usiseme vile kama sisi wakina mzee Mtambalika alivyotolea. Mimi sizungumzi na mtoto, nikwambia toka. Unaelewa? Ya, sasa kwa nini nitoke mzee? Baadaye ukitoka nilikosea, rudi ndani. Umeona? You have to create a society where people are okay to have discussions, to have conversations, to collide the ideas. Umeona? Na ndio maana siku hizi kuna generation ambayo ukitoa opinion tu achangiwa na kutukana watu kama 20 bila sababu ya msingi. Kwa sababu they have not been raised kujenga hoja. Umeona? Nyerere anasema what? Argue, don't shout. If you can't argue, keep quiet. But don't insult, don't shout. And that generation is a generation of people who will solve our problem, because they'll be critical thinkers. And that's a generation that is used to create startup founders. Universities need to move from what used to be a traditional setup of a university. I'm not saying they should kill PhD. We'll discuss about that, because Gemini 3 is claiming to be able to solve PhD level problems. So that's a discussion for another day. Maybe in the next 5 years, PhD will be relevant. Anyway, so the thing is, we need to see universities doing ideathons and hackathons, helping students to come up with new ideas. We need to see technical boot camps happening at the university. where a certain language or certain framework is being tested and students compete to do it so that they can actually develop hands-on skills. We need to see on-campus startup launchpad program. We need to hear University of Dar es Salaam, they're running their own startup launchpad program. University of Dodoma, they're running their own launchpad program, the same with DIT, so that we can be able to see actual startups emerging from universities. On average, each university should give us at least 200 startups every year. If you have 40,000 students coming to your institution, 200 is nothing. Nadanganya jamani. Una vijana 40 wanakuja kusoma, kweli unashindwa kutoa startup 200 kila mwaka? Kwa sababu the problem with startup is out of 100 startups, only one will succeed. So you want to create as many as possible. So even if zikifa, ubakia na chache ambazo zinafanya kazi. And that's how you create a pipeline. If a VC come to Tanzania, before you make a decision to invest in a startup, you want to review a portfolio of minimum 500 startups. And then you can say, okay, these 2 or 3 startups actually make sense, let me put my money. So we want to create an army of founders. It doesn't matter how stupid the idea are, because along the way they will learn to come up with good ideas. Initially, let them just come with ideas. Let them come with startups. Let them come. Let them solve any problem they want to solve, because eventually they will learn skills to build actually good startups. And that is how you create a commercialization pathway from an academic institution to actually getting into the market and eventually grow. Universities should encourage students to be able to pitch, to validate the idea, to validate their business model, and we have to rethink our internship period. Those 9 weeks that students are supposed to be attached somewhere, tujitahidi sana wasiende kupiga kopi na kuandaa chai. They should be able to do something meaningful. Get them attached to any startup instead of pushing them to go to, I cannot mention a brand because I'm in trouble. So another critical aspect is technology is not waiting for us. Things are changing really fast. If you go to a site called AI 2027, just go to Google and write AI 2027. They've run deep research on the next phase of AGI and ASI, artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. Some of them are already claiming we've been able to attain singularity, meaning that the machines can think better than human now already. Some are saying by mid-2027 we'll be able to do that. What that will do, every sector will be disrupted. Haifanyi kazi. Next. Let's go to school. Okay. Yeah, so that velocity of change is scary. Juzi kuna mjadala mkubwa sana kwenye Twitter, accountant walikuwa wanataka kuniua. Umeona bwana? Nimepata over 40,000 engagement mpaka nikashtuka. My wife was like, "Why are you busy at this time? Unafanya nini na simu?" Nikamwambia najaribu kuambia accountant kwamba AI haiji kuchukua kazi zao, ila watu wanaojua AI watawatoa kazini. Si umeelewa? Kwa hiyo the thing is the velocity of change is insane. Sasa wakati accountants were just afraid, hata sisi software developers were also afraid. The latest version ya Gemini ina uwezo kabisa wa kuprogram ile game yote ya nyoka tulikuwa tunacheza kwenye Nokia. Unaikumbuka ile? With a single line of prompt you can create that kwenye Gemini. And then unaweza ukacheza ile game ukaidelete, baadaye ukatengeneza game nyingine for fun. So basically they are estimating by 2028 AI will create what they call the superhuman developers. Something extra than a human that is capable of developing any application you want. So now, as we prepare our young people to be able to build startups, they need to understand in the future they'll be building these startups with machines. So do they have the skills required to help them build next with machines? Bro, itabidi tukudai hela yetu TSA. Umeona? That will be one of the critical aspects of what we are supposed to do. So from idea to product. Okay. Memba naangalia kama ni betri. AI ishachukua kazi. Umeona bwana? So the next interesting thing that has to happen, I'm talking to the founders inside here. Founders, nyosheni tena mikono. Wakati sisi tuna develop product mwaka 2008, just to integrate between WAMP server, yani ile WAMP yenye server, kuintegrate mpaka upate server, before actually integrating with an actual front end, you could spend weeks. Kina Mike anajua hapa. Na ikifanikiwa unatoka nje unapiga na gelegele kabisa, bwana nimeintegrate na WAMP server, sasa ndo naanza kukodi sasa. Sio, unaelewa? But now if you have an idea, and then if the only thing you need is your UI and UX, you can literally just talk to a Gen AI and you get your UX. Nataka nitengeneze application ya kudeliver dagaa, nitengeneze UX. And then it will design the UX for you. That is how easy to actually move from idea to product has come. You don't no longer need to beg software developers to prove your concept. You can build your MVP anytime, your minimum viable product. The only thing you need to do is to become a lifelong learner and constantly learn how to do it. Next. You have jumped almost 4 slides. Back. Yeah, so this one is critical. Next. Back. Up or so. So I'm wrapping this up. We're getting into an era of augmented intelligence, which means your human intelligence in this side and the machine intelligence in this side are working together to improve your efficiency and capability. So if you're talking about developing the skills for 2050 so that you can continue to stay relevant, it is critical you start to learn working with machine at earliest as possible. Tuko pamoja? And for the young people in the room, go to EDX, go to Coursera, go to Udemy, go to Udacity, go to Khan Academy, go and learn these skills, because your university, unfortunately, will not be able to catch up with these changes in time, and possibly by 2030 you'll already be irrelevant. Utayakumbuka haya maneno. I'm not talking to the older people, I'm talking to you guys. So if you're a software engineer right now doing BSc computer science, get rid of all the nonsense they're saying in social media. Usijali, CPA itaendelea kwa hivi hivi, procurement itaendelea kwa hivi hivi. One thing about technology, when it comes, it change things. Watu walitoka farasi wakaenda kwenye treni. Walikuwa nakula nyama mbichi wakaanza kupika na moto. The same way, the same principle. Technology changes things, and be prepared with those changes. We want to create a generation of entrepreneurs, a generation of startup founders that will be able to withstand any technological shock for the next 25 years. Your responsibility as a university is to reinvent and to be able to accommodate these changes, because we need to have this generation of founders being created at scale. Minimum tumekubaliana per university 200 to 300 startups per year, so that tukiaccommodate university zote zimetoa startup wangapi hizi university kwa nazo, at least tukiwa na startup 10,000 zikifa 8,000, 2,000 zitatusaidia kuajiri vijana 2,000,000. Sio hesabu mbaya hiyo, sio umeona eh? So that being said, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and have a good day.
Asante sana. So I really enjoy listening to Brother Mtambalike. He has written a book. Wangapi wanakifahamu kitabu alichokiandika? Right, this is the perfect audience. It's written, nisamee kama I will murder the title, but I think it's The Diary of an African Startup Hub Manager. So this book is very interesting. Sorry? Yes, it is The Diary of an African Startup Hub Manager. That's correct? Oh, I have murdered it.
Actually, you can just Google my name, you'll see the book. I have a different announcement. You're all looking for capital. Founders, you're looking for capital, eh? Yeah, so we provide seed financing, 70,000 USD for anyone working in the EdTech ecosystem and EdTech startup. Kwa hiyo kama una startup ipo kwenye sekta elimu, kuna milioni 100 kama 70 hivi za seed fund ambazo zipo, na encourage you apply. The windows open right now for EdTech companies. If you need any information, feel free to, if I say reach out to me, I'll be lying. But I'll find a way to give you that information. So please, for any startup, because we're here to transact and opening opportunity for you, feel free to apply. As long as you're EdTech and you're looking for seed financing, there's 70,000 USD per startup for those who are looking to move between MVP and scale their product. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
FinTech. I've been told FinTech, you have a lot of money.
All right, Marco Fadhali. Yes, so in his book, he has put together the African perspective, the opportunities that are there, and the gap ya nguvu kazi katika eneo la uanzi innovation pamoja na vijana. So it will be a really nice, itakuongezea thamani ukipata hicho kitabu ukakipitia. But I would like to call upon Professor Bruno Sanguya, Mr. Amani Minja, Dr. Suleiman Arthur, na Mr. Trivingani Magadza over to that corner for some tech setup, just somewhere here kwenye karibu na kile kibao cha National Planning Commission cha NPC pale. You get a tech setup before we start our next panel discussion. Pamoja na Dr. Ludiko Mhamilawa. Perfect for our next discussion. But in the meantime, studio, I think you have something for us. Tafadhali tupatie video. This is going to be a startup spotlight for a startup ambayo inaitwa.
At Gala, we help business owners. They might use Instagram for marketing and Facebook for marketing. Some of them go even to TikTok to market their product. But a lot of the messages coming to WhatsApp. But what is happening on WhatsApp is that business owner have to reply manually to every chat to service these customers. And this is not very scalable. You might find out a business did an ad and they have 1,000 leads coming in, but it's just one person replying to the messages, which takes a lot of time and very, very hard to scale. With Gala, we've come with a solution that actually solves this problem by using AI. How? We have a solution that will be actually talking to the customers on behalf of the business owners to respond to all the questions. It's gonna help the customers place an order. At the same time, it's gonna help the customer actually pay for an order. And at the same time, for the business side, we give them a mobile app that is gonna be now aggregating all of these incoming sales, but also it's not fully AI. If AI sees there's a need for a human to jump in, they can actually notify a business owner, and the business owner can actually come on board to help the business the customer to actually make a sales. Another element of Gala is that we utilize AI to power our platform. And if you look at AI, basically you need talents. You need very, very talented people who actually know how to build these AI solutions. And right now we've been lucky to find out young talented minds that we're working with at Gala. But at the same time, I think universities and government in general need to incentivize more people to come into AI space. I think more need to be done. I think right now I see some of the universities like Albi and Mbeya universities that are already rolling out data science courses to build up AI talent, but I think more need to be done to incentivize even like short courses programs or any training that actually going to be centered around training people to become expert at AI. Another element when it comes to building AI solution is basically infrastructure. It's heavily dependent on having access to GPU. People now in Europe or in America, they have the latest GPU and infrastructure support, so they can innovate better and faster. For us, basically, we're mostly consumer of these AI models, but if we really want to really scale AI solution and this platform, we really need access to the infrastructure. So I think investment need to be done to an AI infrastructure. If it's like a GPU cluster that startups like Gala can actually access and deploy those infrastructure locally here, I think it's be very, very immensely. But also more incentive for companies which are building around AI, not just Gala and other companies. I think all of this need to be done to incentivize if it's tax break, if it's funding support for more companies in AI space here. What excites me the most about the Startup Week, I think it's the networking aspect of it. The aspect like it's going to be they're going to be investors, there are policymakers. Personally, we're currently doing our fundraising. We're almost closing our round. And I think through Startup Weekly Room, I think we're able to now network with investors. At the same time, we'll be exhibiting at Startup Week. So I think it will be a chance for us now to showcase Gala to more customers and get feedback around the product. Not just that, I think we've been talking with TSA about the developer hackathon. I think we're going to do a hackathon that's going to bring on developers to hack around and build up digital solutions. And I think this is really alignment with the Vision 2050. As you know, I think it's a really platform for more people to get exposed to the startup ecosystem, but at the same time for policymakers to understand how the startups actually work and how to support them. And for us, I think I started doing startup stuff and AI stuff. I think through exposure to something like this, like event, and you cannot miss Startup Week 2025. Personally, I've gained a lot. I mean, coming to DA with Digital Network, through attending events like Startup Week 2025, I think there's a huge chance to meet with investors, other startup founders, and even get your own customers. For developers, there's going to be hackathon. You cannot miss this out. See you at Startup Week 2025.
Wonderful, wonderful. Asante sana. So I'd just like to inform you kwamba our guest of honor, Mheshimiwa Waziri, is on his way and he'll be here in a bit. Kwa hiyo tafadhali msiende mbali, naona tunatoka nje ili akute chumba tayari kipo in order. But then up next, I would like to bring up the moderator of this discussion. He is a medical science researcher, a STEM education advocate, an African List Fellow, and the World Economic Forum Global Shepherd. He's also the Executive Director of Project Inspire. Let's put our hands together as Dr. Luidiko Mhamilawa comes up on stage. Karibu sana. Makofi kwake tafadhali. Asante sana.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
In the next session, we're going to have an interesting fireside chat with four different personnel. And essentially, this session is around building this Tanzania startup talent pipeline, looking at skills. Yeah? Oh, this also works?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There's no need to duplicate efforts. Yes. All right. So, building a Tanzania talent pipeline, looking at skills that we're getting in universities and other places, and then linking with academia and how industry is being prepared for this. So just a bit of an overview. Tanzania Development Vision, TDV 2050, really looks at ambitious goals of making Tanzania become a prosperous, knowledge-based, high-income economy driven by strong, competitive private sector. And with looking at the private sector, the strong market-ready pipeline is really needed in terms of skills and talent that is necessary for sustainable startup ecosystem. So to serve an engine for this transformation and allowing for new ventures to really take innovation and scale and essentially compete, we're looking at a very interesting perspective in Tanzania as a youthful country in terms of demographic dividend, where we have a median age of 19 years of age in this country. So we have a really big talent demographic opportunity we have. And then we're looking to translate enabling policies and framework into tangible economic outcomes and capitalize on this demographic dividend. So we will have 10 minutes of conversation with a couple people, and I would like to bring forth our first conversation person. That is Mr. Tiribangani Magadza from Harare Institute of Technology. We're going to borrow from other countries as well in the beginning. So let's give a hand of applause for Mr. Tiribangani as he's approaching the stage. Welcome.
Oh.
I hope your travel was pleasant.
Yeah, sure. It was fantastic.
Great. So we have about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of quick round of conversation. Can you just tell us about yourself and your experiences in this space of startup ecosystem? Welcome.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Tiribangani Magadza, Director for the Center for Artificial Intelligence at Harare Institute of Technology in Zimbabwe. So basically, our university is kind of a different university. So the mandate of the university is to design, incubate, transfer, and commercialize technology. So since its inception, it's already embedded the concept of commercializing ideas within it. So basically, that's what we are pushing. So our main focus is not necessarily to produce graduates, but to produce graduates who can create jobs. Basically, that's what we are here for.
So design, incubate, and commercialize. Quite very important concept. So my first question to you,
Yes.
right? Harare Institute of Technology is widely recognized for its strong applied learning model and its ability to produce industry-ready graduates, as you just told us. From your experience, what institutional reforms, because our conversation here today is on practical things to be done, right? Not necessarily only policy, practical things that to be done. So what institutional reforms and design principles that have been most critical that transformed Harare Institute of Technology into an innovation-oriented university, and then that directly feeds into talent of the national technology ecosystem. So what are those things that you feel like, based on your experience, have been done practically from an institutional level, reforms and design principles from an institutional level?
Oh, okay, thank you so much. So since inception, the vision for HIT wasn't about having a large number of students. So currently our enrollment is our total student on campus around 2,000.
2000, okay.
So we are not a numbers institute. So that alone, it means a student to lecture ratio, student to lecturer ratio is quite small. So we are also a practical oriented university. So most of our programs, they are hands-on. That's why we offer, we moved away from Bachelor of Science. Ours is Bachelor of Technology. The idea is we are more hands-on as possible. Then in terms of bring out entrepreneurs, we have got mandatory courses that we call technopreneurship. It's just entrepreneurship courses, but we are now training technologists to be business minded. So these courses, they are mandatory across all programs, regardless whether you're doing business, you're doing engineering, you're doing computer science. All of those students, they go through this technopreneurship. So in this course, they'll be taught about how to come up with business ideas, how to bring their business ideas to life. So most of, in our programs, especially the bachelor's programs, we have got the first, second year students, they do a group project. So in that, we are also training them how to collaborate with others to solve problems. And we also, in the final year, they also have the capstone design project, which is an individual project. So you have to come up with a real world problem that addresses that. But on top of having the technopreneurship courses, we also have another center called Technology Transfer Licensing and Commercialization Center. So this unit is now coming in to identify those projects that are promising, so that we can incubate them and then put more resources on them. So I think these principles have also helped HIT to come up with industry-ready projects.
So what I'm hearing you say is, one, making sure the student-instructor ratio is embedded into the university institution design, having a reasonable number of students to instructor level so that they have much more engaging instruction level, right?
Yes.
And then another one is embedding entrepreneurship in all the courses across the institution. Techno, you've used the word technopreneurship.
Yes.
And I think that's quite a useful thing to have. And then having an institution really that is linking the industry in terms of commercialization, being intentional in that. And I think those are really quite interesting. For our context, in a lot of institutions, especially in Tanzania, we can borrow in terms of how much student instructor level are really available in our institutions, and probably have other speakers here to discuss that. And so, how just with the same question, the technology ecosystem, how does it look like in Harare, and how are you engaging the institutions, your institution, with the entire ecosystem in technology? How are you engaging with them?
Oh, okay, thank you so much. So recently, our government, through the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, they introduced Education 5.0.
Education 5.0.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's now mandatory across all of our university. So traditionally, we know universities, they operate in three mandates: teaching, research, and community service. But with the Education 5.0, it brings about innovation and industrialization. So the idea is a university that doesn't produce, goods and services. It's kind of useless. So the idea is we really want to produce graduates that are able to produce products and services that address our own context. So I believe that move alone kind of try to empower our universities to start, to produce solutions for Zimbabwe. Then in order to support that, the also government started to introduce innovation hubs across all of our university. So it's in a way to promote, innovation, creation of these ideas and scaling up. So basically it also helps.
Interesting you mentioned that in terms of bringing into day-to-day learning of students. Let's talk about curriculum, right? How is your university changing the curriculum, or has customized the curriculum, and institutional culture? Because these are things that really limit sometimes when it comes to creating these transformations and these market-ready graduates, because you might find an institution where a lot of learning happens in the curriculum, rote memorization, just regurgitate knowledge and not necessarily embed these changes that you really require for day-to-day solutions. Some lecturers would want to just take what you've learned and then make you regurgitate the knowledge. So in terms of if you have any insights you could share with us, especially in Tanzanian institutions, curriculum changes and how the institution culture has been really informed from your institution to change how learning happens and generating these market-ready graduates.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think one of our push at the university is not necessary. Teaching and learning, that's not our core business. So of course it's a tool for us to be able to come up with innovative solutions. You need to make sure that you have people who know something and people who can do something. So we want to cultivate that. And with the advent of the generative AI, we now know that knowledge is now easily accessible, which also requires us to re-engineer the way we assess our students. So basically, at HIT, all of our students, it's mandatory for them to take AI and data science courses. So which means we are now embracing, the artificial intelligence amongst our graduates. So which means every student who passes through HIT has got a course in artificial intelligence, and we are embracing the use of it. So what we are now cultivating is how can we create these skills that will survive, longer period. Because some of these, rote memorization, you can get that information from ChatGPT, but there are skills that are even difficult for artificial intelligence to replicate like creativity, like problem solving. So our more focus is to encourage students to come up with solutions. And the university is creating some structures that support students who have got these ideas, so those ideas will come to life. So we are mostly concentrating on cultivating that, nature of creating innovative ideas.
No, you've mentioned something interesting when it comes to artificial intelligence and how you're embedding this. And I think one of the fears that has been existing, especially in the world of academia, is similar to when the calculator was created, and students were now told, you can't have a calculator in your exams. Now everybody here has a calculator on their phone. So this becomes a tool, essentially. But my question, I'm curious about how you would prepare your teachers, your academicians, your lecturers, your professors to use this tool, because at some point it might feel like these students might have access and the tech, digital natives in this world in such a way that the teachers become, or the lecturers become essentially useless in this context as bearers of knowledge. So I don't know if you've explored that and you've worked around it, especially in the context of creating market-ready graduates and knowing the market is changing. So if you've had any experiences with how you're supporting your staff in universities to be able to enable these learners or to be market-ready graduates in that space. I mean, you can share whatever you have.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. I think graduates, they are much more advanced in terms of making use of this kind of technology, because there's a lot of pressure. So our abbreviation is HIT, but most of people call it HIT. It means the amount of pressure that you are getting in. There's so many assignments, so much things to do. So the majority of our students, they are now tapping into these, generative AI, so that they are able to, do their assignments much faster. But we've also identified that our lecturers, they're kind of lagging behind, and some of them, they are kind of resistant to change. So we have introduced an AI-powered leadership program. So with that program, we started with the academic leaders, the deans, the deputy vice chancellors. So we are subscribing them to these AI tools. We also identified top researchers within our faculties, our schools. We are also subscribing them to these tools. So every month we have workshop in kind of teaching them how to make use of them. Because once they realize how useful these tools are, it's now easy for them to kind of change the way they assess the student, because themselves, they now know and understand how powerful these tools are. So I believe, I think that will go a long way in terms of helping our educators, transition from the old way of, going through books, so that they cultivate these tools that are difficult to replace even with AI.
Right. Thank you very much. I have one last question before I let you go. And this is strongly linked with the pipeline. We're going to talk about talent pipeline, which is the theme of our conversation right now, is the universities have a certain role to play. And then as a pipeline, they're being picked up by somebody else later on. And if the institutions like universities don't have direct linkages, or the pipes are not in alignment, there's a lot of seeking leakages that happens in the talent pool and things like that. Do you have any experiences that you would like to share with us of an example, one or two examples of experiences that HEAT has with maybe one or two or three tech-related industries that is directly linking them to, a medical university would link to hospitals, right? So it would be direct like that. So do you have any experiences with that that would really give us an example of how HIT is demonstrating linkages with the market industry in that pipeline that we could borrow from. And that will be my last question for you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we have kind of find it a little bit difficult because the integration between the university and the industry is kind of not quite integrated. Why do I say that? With all of our graduates have to go for internship, but you realize that it's kind of difficult for students to find placement. And these integrations, they are quite important so that when students, they go for internship, we get the feedback from the company so that we kind of change our curriculum. So that integration has been quite difficult for us because it's very important in terms of talent pipeline development. But what we have been doing is through our innovation hub and through our startup. So as a university, we now have close to 30 startups that are currently running. So these startups, they are now kind of taking some of our graduates as their employees. So it also kind of help in terms of integrating what we are learning and what the business world needs. But in terms of the general industry, that linkage has been a challenge, but I believe what will help is if government put in a policy whereby if an industry take a certain quota of students for internship, it kind of introduce some tax incentive. Somehow it also motivate companies to start to take graduates so that the talent pipeline is not have some leakages.
Thank you very much for this quick conversation. I think what I've gathered from this includes being intentional in terms of ratio of students and learners, being intentional in terms of institutional policies that are accommodating international linkages, but there are still work to be done in terms of actually operationalizing industrial linkages with talent pool that's being generated. And I'd like to thank you very much. Looking forward to learning a lot more from you. Thank you very much. Right. So this is the next round of our conversation will be with Professor Bruno Sunguya. And this happens to be a Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research Consultancy from Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences. And Professor Bruno Sunguya also happens to be my mentor at some point in my entire academic career. And it will be quite interesting to have a conversation with him at this forefront as a person who really works on innovation and research at the university. So a big hand of applause for Professor Bruno Sunguya. Prof,
Vico,
nice seeing you.
nice to see you again.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
All right. So just for the sake of the audience, I'm going to give you 1 minute and 30 seconds to tell people who you are and what you do. Apart from being a runner.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm a runner. Marathon runner, by the way.
Right.
I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor responsible for research and consultancy at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences. My name is Bruno Sunguya, also professor in public health at